What's up, guys? Welcome to Stones Live, brought to you by Two Pair Poker. I'm Jake Rosensteel. I'm here with Kyle Kitagawa, Deej Poker Pro. Veronica Brill, she fell off her stripper pole tonight, bruised her ego, and so yeah, you're here with us. We got 5-10 tonight, good game, couple familiar faces. No one really new tonight, but yeah, there will be blood. Kyle, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Very excited.
Yeah.
Kyle is a professional poker player. You play a lot of limit.
Yeah, I do.
But you're not limited.
No. I'm not limited.
No. And yeah, you rep for Deej Poker, and you do some blogging.
I do. I just started a new blog recently. Check it out. It's at thecardroom-norcal.com.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, just
awesome.
We'll see how it goes.
Solid. All right, let's get to the action.
Alrighty.
Getting to the action. So, actually, we do have one new player that we've never seen before tonight. A player I know personally, David in seat 1. I played a lot of cards with David, more so over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years. He's a real solid player. He gets around a lot, not in his personal life, just in poker. And I'm really eager to get inside his head, get some insight into his game. We have Azan in seat 2, another local professional player. Real solid player. Kyle G, as Veronica would call him, the honey badger. She loves herself some Kyle G. Kyle G in seat 3. Handsome George in seat 4. He's back at it again. Hopefully he's going to play his draws a little more aggressively than we saw him last time. Uncle Matty in seat 5. Familiar seat 5? He's in the game. Peter in his usual seat 6. Sean is in seat 7. Waiting for a new player to come in here to seat 8. And Rich, the beloved Rich, in seat 9. So
I've heard some interesting things about Rich, so I'm excited to see how he plays.
Rich is a firecracker. Rich will take any 2 cards all the way, put everyone to the test, and make you bleed for it. So Rich is sitting on a pretty deep stack right now. Rich has got just under 5K. So far I don't have a lot of starting stacks for numbers for you guys. I apologize for that. But everyone's fairly deep stacked. No one's sitting really short that I can tell. As usual, the red chips are $5 chips. The greens are $25. The white chips you see, those are $100 chips. And the blues, they don't really play in this game. They're more so for tipping the dealers. Those are our $1 chips here at Stone's Gambling Hall. So getting our action started.
I'm rooting for Kyle.
You're rooting for Kyle? Yeah. Kyle's pretty solid.
Yeah.
He's if I had to buy a piece of any one player in the game, it might be Kyle. He doesn't seem to make a lot of egregious mistakes. He doesn't seem to get over ambitious. He just plays pretty solid poker. And as right as I say,
about me or that Kyle?
That much Kyle, right? Right as I say he doesn't get over ambitious, he raises with a 10-3 suited from the button and flops himself a whole lot of 2-pair.
See, that's why I'm rooting for him.
That's why you're rooting for him, yeah. Easy to root for the guys with the best hand, right?
Yeah, or the same name as you.
Or the same name. So there's another look at players' stack sizes. It shows Danny in seat 1.
That's actually David.
That's actually David. We did have Danny earlier, was in the game in seat 1. He picked up. I can't see David's chip stack, but that is David in seat 1. Mike's our dealer. Mike, one of the only players in the room with or people in the room with a better beard than me. Not jealous at all. He's pitching for us right now. Getting a good look at Rich there. Rich has been in everything. Rich has played in our 10 1/4 game. He's played in our 5-5, 5-10. Rich loves to mix it up. So he's going to start our action. He's going to raise up to 60 with ace-queen suited.
Looks like Sean actually limped under the gun with 10s first.
Limping with 10s.
Yeah.
Under the gun, what's your thoughts there?
I probably would have opened, but we'll see how this works out.
Also, now, I wonder if the straddle's on in this game, so that would make a lot more sense to me. if the straddle is actually going on here, because even, I mean, anyone I don't see really just limping tens. Ace deuce 5 is our flop, couple of diamonds. Sean's got a diamond. He's gonna need a lot more of them though. He's gonna check over Rich, and Rich bets, it looks like 105, and Sean lets it go pretty quick. Rich shows him the ace, and he takes down the pot. So, if I was a speculator, I would be led to believe that Sean actually had a straddle on the game, which would maybe also explain the large raise from Rich. I mean, raising 6x.
That's true. That's true. Maybe the graphics were a little bit off because it did say Colton. I don't know.
So that's what we've in the game when a player straddles, it won't actually like pop on the graphic of a player straddle.
Okay.
It'll show up that they call.
Learning new stuff.
Learning, yeah,
every hand here.
Everything. So let me ask you this. So we just saw like I'm assuming that Sean straddled in that hand, and Rich opened to 6x. What are your thoughts about like raise sizing? When pre-flop, I mean, do you vary your raise size based on hand strength, position? What do you do, Kyle?
Based on the reputation that I think Rich has here, where he's kind of an active player, I don't really want to inflate the pot too much pre-flop out of position against him, so I probably would just call it with tens. I think it's an okay play.
So I got a good feeling the straddles on him, because here we see Rich under the gun. It showed that he had just called it 10. We see 20 in the pot. So yeah, there's a $20 straddle on right now. So yeah, it's 5, 10, $20 straddle. It looks like going on right now. And Handsome George made it 60 to go with Ace King. Rich defends the straddle with King Jack suited. He's dominated, but he doesn't care.
Yep. And if I'm Handsome George, I'd definitely be c-betting here, which it appears he does. It's a pretty dry flop, and it's gonna work out.
Queen 5-6, very dry flop. Heads up, you got to be c-betting, if not 100% of the time, close to
pretty much in that spot.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's never 100%, but it's close enough.
Yeah. Got a familiar face in the chat box. I see Chris Hinchcliffe. Are you kidding me on Twitter?
What's up, Chris?
Chris is one of our local players. Plays more tournaments than he does cash.
He's a very good tournament player.
Very good tournament player. One of his more famous cashes came finishing second to Daniel Negreanu for a bracelet in 2004.
He's had some other pretty impressive cashes.
Yeah, yes, he has.
So.
Yeah, that wasn't even his biggest cash in 2004. Imagine that, like finishing second for a bracelet. And that wasn't even your biggest score of the year, right?
I want to say his biggest score is at least 300, 400,
600.
600. Okay,
Yeah.
I was way off.
Yeah. Samsonite, way off.
He's a really nice guy too.
Great guy.
Great to have in the community.
So it doesn't look like there's a straddle on this hand. Kyle is gonna raise to 30 here with pocket tens. Maddie's gonna make the call with ace queen offsuit.
Looks like we got 5-way action to the flop, and this is a pretty wet board. King, queen, 9, straight possibilities. Definitely hits top pair possibilities. And just gonna check around.
It checks through, and Kyle turns a straight.
I think Kyle knew that was coming.
He knew it was coming, of course. That's why you check tens there.
Yeah.
Kathy Stahl in the chat box. How you doing, Kathy? Good to have you as always.
So still checking around here. Kyle's gonna have to put in some type of value bet here.
160 in the pot. No one's really putting any kind of money in the pot there. Where do you lean kind of smaller in your value bet size to try to get a call out of a weak hand, or are you leaning bigger, make sure to make it look bluffy? What do you think you're doing there, Kyle?
Yeah, when you're betting into 4 other players, it does show strength. So
Kyle bets 125.
I don't know. It's a pretty wet board. There's a good chance that someone has at least a king or a queen and might look you up, maybe even 2 pair there. So
right?
Yeah, I actually might have bet the turn as well, just because the board's so wet.
Sean's thinking about it. He's a little bit suspicious. But like you brought up there, it's one thing when it checks to the last player to act and he tries to pick up the pot. When Kyle's leading out there into like 4 or 5 players, it's really hard for him to be completely bluffing there.
Yeah.
But Sean doesn't look like he's totally buying it yet.
I I think if Kyle had like the king or a queen or any just one pair type hand here, even two pair type hand. Yeah,
You're checking
he's probably checking it.
Checking most of your two pair hands there.
Yeah.
Check, with the intention to check call.
Yeah, maybe. Just because I think that someone in a later position would have bet that turn, but they'd have a straight. So
looks like they're all gonna let it go. Kyle shows the tens.
Did Sean call?
Sean might have called there.
And not sure.
I think Sean made the call, and Kyle's already off and running. So Kyle's sitting on about 2.5 right now. Elder 8 makes a comment like no value whatsoever. I think, well, like I said, like Kyle was, or this Kyle was making the comment of with that wet of a board, you don't always expect someone to have something. So I think Kyle, being in an early position there, was more so expecting someone else to do some of the legwork there for him. Unfortunately for him, it just never came to fruition.
Who do we have sitting in C8? Someone just sit down?
New player just sat down. If it is who I hope it is, we are in for a real treat. It is. Oh, God. Why can't I think of I'm so embarrassed now. I can't think of his name.
We'll just call him the Kings. The Kings guy.
Sat Kings player. No, he's been mixed up in our 10 and a quarter games, some of our bigger 5-10 games. He has really put a dent in some players' pocketbooks around here. He's played some really big pots. He's a great guy to play with, and
so we're still having some issues picking up some of the cards here, it appears. But fortunately, we don't have to get too involved in this hand as Matty falls on the flop.
Nate? I want to say it's Nate.
I think it is Nate.
I think it's Nate. Nate
I've played with him a few times.
Nate seat 8. So someone's asked for a setup change.
Who do you think it was?
If I had to lay money, oh my God, either Matty in 5 or Peter in 6.
I'm thinking Peter.
Peter, it's one of my little peeves in poker. Is setup changes, and it's.
I don't think I've ever asked for one yet.
I can tell you for a fact I never asked for a setup change. Yeah, unless I thought there was a real problem with the card.
Yeah,
something
if
was
the card's
marked,
dented or marked or something, then that's a different story. But
oh my God!
It's usually the guys that don't play a lot of hands too, it's either the guys that play a lot of hands or don't play a lot of hands. And both Matty and Peter super tight.
Pretty snug. I'm surprised Peter's not eating a salad already. See, usually it's his MO. Be huffing down salad. Playing the nuts are better. So yeah, there's
So it does look like, is Matty or is Kyle sitting out? It looks like Kyle's sitting out. Never mind. I thought there was a straddle, but
there's one of those sayings I've seen. I think it's a shirt. It's like you're never more than a seat change or a setup change away from being a good player. It's just one of those things. I don't know. David in his usual posture. I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen that super stoic, emotionless, reactionless posture from David there in seat 1. He doesn't move. You don't get a lot of reads on him. Every motion, every bet, every check, everything's all the same. The nuts to nothing. It's across the board. Really hard to get a read on, and he plays really, really solid poker.
All right, we got some action here from Nate.
David makes a 40 to go.
9-8 off.
Or 50 to go, I'm sorry. David's got ace-9 suited. He's got Nate dominated right now. But Nate flopped all the help he needed.
Wow,
we should have action.
They both
here.
have big draws. That's
wow. Nate's got an open-ended straight draw. Fires out 50 into David, who's flopped himself the nut flush draw. I expect to see a little raise here. Just calls. Both players turn a pair. Now, if you're Nate, you led the flop. You don't keep. He checks back or checks the turn. A little bit surprised there. Looks like David's gonna bet. 125 with his pair nut flush draw, and Nate insta-calls with his pair and open-ended draw. And both players river trip 9s. What a bloody card. Wow.
What do you do if you're Nate here? You check the turn. You led the flop, check the turn.
I think you have to lead here because it's generally, I mean, there's no way he's counting on David having trip 9s himself. The flush draw missed. This hand goes check, check in so many spots. I think you have to lead if you're Nate.
I think it's going to bet about 220-ish.
Looks like 250. Nice call. And David snap calls. No raise. Bets 275. And wow, there really could have been some action there. So if you're David in position and you turn trip 9s, the player led into you on the flop on Jack 10. Was it Jack 10 X?
Jack 10 4, 2 clubs. So.
Jack 10 4, 2 clubs. He led into you and then check the turn, check the 9, and then another 9 comes and he leads. Are you thinking about maybe like popping it on the river there?
I think I'm just gonna call because if you repop it, what are you gonna get?
What are you gonna get called by?
I don't know. It's one of those.
You can get called by Ace Jack, King Jack, maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
I
don't know. I just like the call there.
The only part that I don't know how much David and Nate have played together, but like we've seen Nate play really aggressively in a lot of spots, and maybe part of David's considerations there were he didn't want to reopen himself up to a bluff.
Yeah.
And he's probably figuring he's only going to get called by better.
Yeah, it's just very few hands that I think he gets called by if he repops it. There's straight possibilities. You're not getting good calls if he missed a smaller flush draw or missed a straight draw.
Nate's going to raise it up here to 30 with ace-10 offsuit. Handsome George, his words, not mine, makes a call, 7-8 off. 4-6-8.
Not a bad flop for Handsome George.
Got top pair inside straight draw.
Who raised this pre-flop?
Nate made it 30 to go pre. 3 of diamonds is pretty harmless here for George. He's going to come out with his 8s, bet 50.
I like it. That was a pretty dry flop for Nate. I'm surprised he didn't c-bet after betting pre-flop.
That hand, yeah,
he does have position too.
It misses your opponent's range a lot. I mean, he doesn't know that George, is called him off with 7-8 off there, but I mean, most players playing pairs and big cards. I mean, 7 or an 8 high flop. Yeah, kind of surprised that Nate didn't put a continuation bet there.
And
but
I think if George, despite the fact that he did have top pair there on the flop, I think if I'm George, I'm almost gonna bet or lead the turn there with almost anything after that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, once your opponent shows that kind of weakness on the flop, it's a not follow through. It's kind of like he's either trapping you or he completely whiffed and is not even bothering with it. So we saw Azan play 5-10 with us. He was in I think Azan was in one of our 10 1/4 games, and Azan has been so card dead on the stream. Off the stream in some of the side games, you've seen him mix it up there, get stack off some people, and it seems like whatever Azan gets on the stream, he finds 10-4 offsuit like in 90% of his hands. Like he just can't find nothing to work with.
Sometimes it's better though.
Sometimes it is better. Jack 8 queen, couple clubs.
I actually played some limit hold'em with Azan.
Azan plays limit?
No, not really, but
that's the best.
He was playing it for a while. I kind of got him into it when we had the A16 game going here, and he did pretty well.
Yeah. Now, you're a player. Peter's turned trip 8s, by the way.
Nice.
Can't see what Nate has, but Peter's got the best of it for sure right now. Mostly for sure.
There are a lot of draws out there too,
there are draws.
So this is definitely a good spot to bet for value.
So Peter made it 150 to go. And Nate's not.
Raise?
Is that might be. Those look like 3 white chips. Nate's playing back at him. Oh god, if Nate's got the 9-10 here, Peter's probably ready to puke. Peter's probably in check call mode here. And Nate fires out. Is that 600?
It's a pretty big bet. Yeah.
475. There's some greens mixed in there. 475. What do you do if you're Peter? What can you beat if you're Peter? It's funny to think that with trip 8s on that board that you're probably beat, but
Queen Jack, Ace Queen.
You can beat Queen Jack and Ace Queen. You think that after Peter check raises and Nate re-raises the turn? I mean, do you think Nate's really doing that with Ace Queen on the turn?
Maybe not.
It's really hard. I mean, Queen.
I didn't realize it was a check raise. It was a check raise.
It was yeah. I think Peter check raised to 150. Nate came back over the top on the turn, made it 350, made it another 200. It's just really hard. And he's gonna call. And Nate says, can't see Nate's cards. Please bring him in.
Ace 8.
9 to he flopped. He flopped the world. Wow.
Wait, Ace 8.
No, he
Wait.
pulled it back. He flopped the straight, hit 9-10. He flopped the straight. Nate flopped the straight, and Peter caught the one card that was really gonna suck him in there.
I'm still getting used to the graphics here.
So Nate rebounds right after losing to the worst trip 9s. Yeah, Peter. The turn action was check to Nate. Nate bet 50. Peter check raised to 150. Nate made it 350.
Okay.
Peter calls, and then check calls 475 on the river. Kind of a sick spot if you're Peter.
Yeah. Peter doesn't play many hands either, so you gotta feel good if you're Nate in that spot.
Really, really tough. So, you mentioned Dazan playing over. He was playing limit.
Yeah.
I know him exclusively as a no limit player. As a player yourself who plays both sides of Hold'em, do you find players cross over from limit into no limit easier, or vice versa?
Honestly, I think limit to no limit is probably easier, just because I think that you learn a lot of basic poker skills in limit first, and that definitely help your no limit game. The problem is that most people that start out in no limit, they go to limit and they're totally not used to it. It's a completely different strategy.
Yeah.
They attribute everything to being unlucky, and
They always think they got implied odds, which is not a thing in well, yeah.
it's a total different approach. So, but
What's up, Rick and Barstow?
I think you got to give Azan a lot of credit there, because he's definitely trying to learn a different type of game, and it could definitely help him out at some point in his career.
So if you were to tell someone who, let's say, a no limit player who wants to cross over and try some limit games, A16 to 2040 maybe even, what would be one of the first adjustments if you were just going to ABC, hey, you got to, don't do this, do this. What maybe was just some of the early, first thing you might say to a player who wants to go from no limit into limit hold'em?
I think a lot of people have the notion that limit hold'em you are allowed to play more hands because it's cheaper to see flops, and that's true to a certain extent, but you always have to keep in mind that position still plays a major factor. You still have to limit how many hands you're playing, because the thing about limit is your chips are actually going to be in play more often than in no limit, so the variance in limit is actually higher.
Wow.
Especially in the short term, your stacks are just going to go up and down, whereas in no limit, if you're card dead, you're just folding and folding and your chips aren't going into play.
Yeah.
So at times limit poker can be a lot more tilting because of that as well, and I'd say a lot of no limit players come into a 20-40, 40-80 game not expecting that, and they just go crazy.
Yeah.
It's good for me, but not good for them.
I follow you on Twitter. I have you on Instagram. I saw that over the summer in the series you went down there. You were playing a lot of 2040 and 4080 at a primary where at the Bellagio. limit hold'em here, the Sacramento area. We don't get games that big, so mostly you're playing mostly no limit here, right?
Yeah, in Sacramento it's mostly no limit. We tried to get an 8-16 game going here. It was going for a while. Maybe we'll get it back going again.
Awesome. Of course you know about it. On February 8th coming up, we have Omaha night. We're gonna have a half game, 5-5, half PLO, pie only. PLO is standard, but and half hold'em in the feeder, or sorry, not feeder game, in the live stream game, and then 1-3 PLO in the outer tables, and we're gonna have some 6-12, 4-8, and higher 0-8 limit.
And that'll be all streamed.
Games, and that'll be
on the stream too.
Well, the stream is going to be the half game.
Okay. I'll be in that game, by the way. I don't play PLO at all, but
God, how am I stuck in the booth? I'm gonna get like hold'em crossover players playing 4-card poker. It's like the juiciest thing in the world. I love it, and I'm gonna be in here.
I'm just gonna like go on a bathroom break or something and sit out every other rotation.
Yeah. There's gonna be a 50K Omaha jackpot that night. Any quad 8s or better beat. Hosted by Deej Poker, friends of yours, part of your crew.
Yeah.
You guys are nuts.
I forgot my Deej badge today.
You guys are nuts. Fun guys.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I like you, but you're crazy. You guys are wrecking balls. Oh my god. So back to this game.
I want to see like a big 2K pot between Kyle and Azan.
Between Kyle and Azan, oh my god. Those guys against each other, those guys are so snug against each other. And I mean, look, you can't even separate them. They came in tonight and decided to sit right next to each other. Maddie's gonna put in a raise here with a 4-5 off, so he's gonna click the button, min raise to 20. Or you know what? I think maybe we might have another straddle pot. Maybe I think Maddie limps in with a 4-5, limps in for 20. Who's under the gun? Azan, yeah. Azan.
Maddie's sneaky. He does this every once in a while. I play a lot with him, and I've noticed that every once in a while he'll try to see some cheap flops with
connectors.
Yeah, random cards and
ace-x and stuff. So Azan exercises his option in the straddle, makes it 100 to go with pocket 10s. We have a lot of 10s in our deck tonight. Nate, he's got 10-3 suited.
No way.
Does not make it work the way Kyle does.
Oh, Maddie. Did Maddie just call?
Maddie called. Heads up to the flop. 9-6-4.
Maddie connects, but Azan's got the overpair here, and it's definitely a good flop, so I don't see why he wouldn't see bet.
He fires out, and Maddie immediately gets out of the way. Yeah, under the gun there, 4-5, or there was a straddle on, and limping in there, 4-5 offsuit. That's a little ambitious.
Yeah, I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily recommend that.
But he's got options.
Like I said, Maddie's got that image of being a tighter player, and every once in a while he'll sneak in with a weird hand like that, and he'll connect, and
you just never see it come.
I believe I paid him off a couple of times because of that. So.
A little dealer change here, and Peter's eating salad. And now we know what's going on.
Was there an over/under on what time he eats the salad?
There was not an over/under. We should have bet on that. We should have bet on when Peter would start shoveling salad. Yeah. So, how long have you been playing poker for a living?
I played for a couple years, and then I got into the corporate world, and then I quit, and then I started playing for a couple years again. So total like 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. Yeah. Mostly all here in Sacramento?
No, I started in the Bay Area actually.
Really?
I played a lot at the Oaks Card Club in Emeryville.
Yeah.
So around when Black Friday happened, I was living in the Bay Area.
Why did you bring that up? No,
I know. But you know, so I started playing 1530 limit hold'em. That's actually when 1530 limit hold'em. That's my live poker career started off as a limit player.
Limit player.
Yeah.
1530. Yeah.
They had a pretty good game there. I don't know about nowadays.
So you crossing over and then into no limit, that was kind of out of necessity just because of the lack of limit games being spread, or?
I started off as a no limit player online.
Yeah.
And after I read Super System 2, Jennifer Harmon wrote a really good chapter in that book on Limit Hold'em. And for whatever reason, I think I was just running bad online in No Limit. I was a pretty bad player as it is back then anyways, and I read that chapter and made some good points. I realized that there's a lot of strategy involved in Limit. Before that, I was like every other No Limit player, just thought it was based on luck. I didn't think you could bluff people, but you can bluff people in Limit.
You can bluff people in Limit.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
You just gotta know how to set it up, you know?
Sometimes you can almost even bluff people more because people are just, because it's only one more bet.
Yeah.
People always kind of generally associate, like, if he's betting, he's got to have it or has something.
Yeah.
And people, I think, what I found, people in Limit, I don't say it's easier to bluff, but there's definitely, like, you know, when you're betting, it's more believable to assume that opponent has it or has something. And you can get away with some pretty dirty moves in Limit.
I won almost a 2K pot at Bellagio this summer in the 40-80 game. I missed my flush. I had a straight flush draw. I missed it on the river. We're still three-handed on the river. I think it was 7 high on the flop, and the river came out of 7, and I was first to act, and I decided to just lead here. The pot was so huge. The great thing about Limit is I only have to bet 80 there to try and steal it, and both players go in the tank, look disgusted, and they muck it. So
that's gross.
It's crazy because in No Limit, you're automatically calling 80 there into like a $1,800 pot.
Right.
Yeah.
Back to the action here. Peter's got pocket threes. He takes down the pot. Somehow someone found themselves in a hand with 9-4 suited. Not that we're judging here.
Yeah, after I read that chapter in Super System, I actually went on a 30K upswing playing Limit Hold'em online in 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was only 4 tabling at the time.
Kyle Kidda Crusher. Nice. Can't see if there's a straddle on this hand. Azan's got the button. He's going to open up the action, raise to 50 here with ace-8 offsuit. Handsome George has got a hand.
Yep.
He's in the big blind with ace-queen. So I believe, there was a straddle. Both players can call 7-9-7. Couple of clubs. Matty has 2 overs and the second nut flush draw.
Yeah. Pretty big flop there.
And Matty's going to lead for 105.
Do you re-raise there with ace-queen pre-flop?
I'm against Azan. I think Azan's opening a huge range on the button.
Yeah.
I'm definitely raising ace-queen.
Because Matty was the straddle, right? So.
Yeah, Matty was the straddle. Okay, we got a question out of the chat box. I like Hallie Donks. He asked, how much do you buy into Limit Hold'em?
I like to buy in for about 30 to 40 big bets.
30 to 40 big bets.
So in a 20-40 game, that would be between 1,200 and 1,600. 40-80, that would be like 3,200 to, or 2,400.
Yeah. Can get some pretty big games playing Limit.
The main thing is that in Limit, you really have to bet for value a lot more. Well, I mean, I take it back. You're always betting for value, no matter what game you're playing. But it just matters so much in Limit. For example, stealing the blinds in Limit is so crucial compared to No Limit, because in Limit Hold'em, you're really kind of looking to make one big bet per hour. Whereas like No Limit, you're trying to make
X amount of blinds per hour.
Yeah, exactly.
9, 10,
And so
takes an hour.
Yeah, so in Limit Hold'em, if you're playing with a short stack and all of a sudden you end up with like a monster hand. For example, this one time I was playing a 15-30 game, and the thing about most Limit games is that if the game is heads up, there's no cap, which means you can't just go all in. But you know,
Yeah,
you go
you're
one
not
bet, two bet, three bet, four
you're not
bet,
limited.
five.
You're not limited at 4 or 5 bets
Yeah.
a street. Yeah.
And I had the nut straight against this guy that clearly didn't know what the heck he was doing. He had the second nut straight. Turns out I knew exactly he had to have, you know, like a straight of some sort, but I had the nuts, and he took me 8 bets on the turn, and then we were finally all in. So if I was playing with a short stack in that case, I would not have extracted it as much value there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why it's crucial. That's why you always see limit players with racks of chips on the tables.
Yeah.
If you do end up in one of those weird spots where second nuts versus the nuts,
You really want to get your value out of the hand.
yeah.
Yeah. We get lots of love in the chat box. Eggs and Soda Burp says limit is for people he's had his chat deleted, so that's all good. Rick and Barstow, you see that limit can be tough because it's so tilting.
It can be, yeah.
And I see a lot of no limit players get frustrated because they feel like they have the best hand and they can't bet enough to protect their hand. It's one of the common complaints or feelings I've heard no limit players advocate when talking about when they try to cross over play limit hold'em.
Yeah, that's true. But it's going to work the same. It's going to balance out just like in anything else. And one thing you'll notice is that, like I said earlier, your chips are going to be in play a lot more frequently than a no limit. And because of that, average pot size generally is pretty consistent. It's a lot bigger.
Yeah.
So the swings, the short-term swings and variance is going to be kind of crazy, but in the end, it kind of balances out.
It's funny. I hear players they'll complain about how much they didn't win, or in a hand where they had the nuts or something like that. But they don't really complain about how much they didn't lose the time they got drawn out on. It's like in no limit, aces versus kings, and you get stacked for 100 to 200 bigs. And limit, you lose 5 or 6 bets.
Yeah.
And it's people always kind of forget that part of it. That other positive there is that sometimes it can be damage control.
I think limit hold'em is great. It's so profitable. I think the main thing that people don't realize is that no limit, the game is getting tougher to beat, and especially in recent years. And I don't see that happening in limit hold'em.
Yeah.
And it's a beatable game. You just have to study it just like you study no limit. It's a different strategy.
And there's not as much, like I said, no limit players have gotten better over the last several years, and you said limit players haven't. I mean, there's so many more books and literature and videos available for no limit because it's the game of choice.
Yeah.
And you just don't see that much out there with limit.
The other thing that's good is that if you think about it from like the poker economy standpoint, let's say there's like five pros playing in a limit game, and you have like a couple of whales in the game. They're gonna lose that money over a longer period. Like say that whale dumps 50K over a year. All right, that's kind of a lot, but let's just say 50K over a year, and it's because he's playing more hands and stays in the game longer. That money's gonna be distributed amongst the 4 or 5 pros sitting there playing with
more
him.
than the one guy who picks him off in one night.
No limit, it gets picked off by one player, and then not only is that bad, but that when he donks off 50K in one night, he's gonna be like, oh crap, poker sucks, I don't want to play
and
again.
he might give the game. So Rich opens with pocket fives, takes down the pot. No one really defends anything right there.
I play very, very aggressively. Dope Daffy asked if I play tighter or looser in no limit. It depends on how the table is, If it's a really loose table, then I need to tighten up. If it's a tight table, then I'm definitely gonna take control of it and open up a lot more hands and
that's
kind
of the same with no limit. Is you're gonna generally be more profitable playing the opposite the way the rest of the table's playing.
And
Azan's
be
got
very aggressive. Make sure you 3-bet. Don't be scared to 3-bet and limit hold'em.
So Azan's gonna raise here to 55 here with his 5-6 suited. No one really seems to have much for him. There was a straddle on in that hand, so
That was an exciting hand.
yeah, thrilling. So we're seeing here where Azan is in the straddled pots. He's raising 2.5, 2.75x there, not really making a big raise. And maybe he feels that he's one of the better players at the table and he wants to play more pots with these players.
Definitely.
And so lower his raise size, play more post-flop, or flop and post-flop poker, and get involved.
Absolutely, I would do the same.
And for those of you that are concerned, Veronica Brill, she's going to be fine. Her doctor says it's all good. I mean, her stripper pole is at like normal. It's not an elevated stripper pole, so it wasn't a long hard fall. She's going to be just fine.
I'm sorry, I'm not pretty like her. I thought about getting a boob job.
You use that term you use that term loosely, don't you? Jeez, God.
I'm 3-betting pretty wide if I'm in position. I like to play short-handed limit also. That's kind of my thing. But generally, if let's say like the hijack or low jack opens, I'm gonna 3-bet with probably unless that player's super tight, I'm probably gonna 3-bet even with like queen 10 suited or something like that, just because I'm gonna isolate out I told you guys earlier how the small blind and the big blind, the blinds are just so valuable in limit hold'em. If you could isolate them out, then that's dead money. And
get that overlay from the blinds.
And even if your hand is weaker than the opening betters, you still have the advantage of position. So
and representing a stronger hand.
Yeah, and you're representing a strong hand. So yeah, but again, it kind of depends also on table dynamics. If you're at a table where people just don't fold pre-flop, then you gotta tighten up. So
we're on a flop here. 7-6-3 is our flop. Couple of spades. I didn't see the action. I know Kyle had spades. He folded though. Azan, it said raise to 75. Can't see his cards. Action's on Nate. He's got top pair, overcard kicker. David he's got 2 overs in the gut shot. Backdoor spade if you want to be ambitious about it.
And we just saw Azan previous hand raise with like, what was it, 6-5 spades?
6-5 suited. It didn't go to showdown, but he's gonna take it down, and he's gonna show a card that we can't see. So in that hand, Nate led for 20, David flatted, and Azan put in not a huge raise there. So flop to nuts says limit Omaha high sucks. Where do you play limit Omaha high only? I've never played limit high only. I've never played high only.
Omaha high sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. Like in my experience, Omaha is 08s. Obviously it's a high-low limit game, and then PLO is high only, but that's always played pot limit. I've never seen a high only limit game ever. I've seen it.
I'm trying to think.
I've seen it spread no limit online, but generally like high only Omaha is generally played pot limit, and then of course if you really like to party, then you play high low PLO 8.